All right, just as hopes were running high that Libya would embrace its recent liberation and establish a democracy for the people, the transitional government declared that the nation will now be run as an Islamic state based on Sharia law. Now speaking to a celebratory crowd, the leader of the Transitional National Council, Mustafa Abdul Jalil, he announced over the weekend that Libya will legalize polygamy, throw out any existing regulations that do not conform to Sharia law. However, today, in an attempt to calm the spreading fear, Jalil said, quote, "I would like to assure the international community that we as Libyans are moderate Muslims." Joining me now with reaction, the author of They Must Be Stopped and president of Act for America, Brigitte Gabriel, and columnist for the Daily Beast, Fox News political analyst Kirsten Powers. Kirsten, on the political side, explain this. Because everybody said the Arab Spring, this is great, we're getting rid of a dictator, Mubarak. In comes the Muslim Brotherhood, in comes the military, and it appears that I was one of the few that was right. It's going to be far worse. How is it possible that they didn't know the rebels that they were supporting would likely impose Sharia law? How could you not think this through?
Well, I mean, I was saying the same thing you were saying at the time, Sean, and it's true, you were one of the few people. And frankly, there were conservatives and liberals, along with the administration, who were all getting caught up in what was going on and not really asking the questions of who's going to take over. And there was a lot of excuse making for the Muslim Brotherhood, even the administration embracing them and saying, oh, they're moderates, which anybody who knows anything about what's going on there knows is complete and utter nonsense. Yeah, and they met with them and believed what they said. Even though that they run their campaign saying theocracy is the answer, they're quite transparent actually about what they want to do. And I'm not saying there aren't good Muslim Brotherhood people out there, but let's be realistic about what they want to do. What these groups of people want to do. All
right, Brigitte. Here's what Sharia law will represent, at least in other states, Saudi Arabia being one. We know Iran's, requirement that women obtain permission from their husbands for their daily freedoms, beating of disobedient women and girls, execution of people that are gay, engagement of polygamy, forced child marriages, requirement of testimony for male eyewitnesses if a woman is to claim rape, stoning if you commit adultery, lashing of adulterers, amputation of body parts, in some cases female genital mutilation, and I can go on and on. This is Sharia as it is applied in many countries. Where is the outrage? Why didn't this administration see this coming? Everyone was so happy. I'm glad Gaddafi's dead, but Gaddafi hasn't been as big a problem in recent years, has he?
No, he has not. Actually, at one point, Gaddafi in 2003 had signed an agreement deciding to basically give to the United States his 30 tons of mustard gas. He was turning around after seeing what we did in Iraq. However, because of the lack of this administration's of showing strength and dealing with Iran, Gaddafi began becoming empowered again. And what happened was the rebels right now that we stood behind without understanding who they are, what they are up to, what their goal is. America did the exact same mistake we did in Afghanistan when we stood with the Mujahideen without knowing much about them. We wanted to get rid of the Soviets. So we gave the Mujahideen arms, money, and here in Libya we did the same thing, invested $1 billion only to end up with the worst enemy in the long run that we did with Gaddafi.
Yeah. All right. Well, so the question is, where do we go from here when you got North Africa, you got the Middle East, and then, of course, the hand of Iran over a lot of this? Then the possibility of Syria, maybe even ultimately Jordan. I mean, we're talking about a significant portion of the world, Kirsten, that could end up being radicalized through their governments. Libya had 30,000 surface-to-air missiles. Is that now in the hand of Islamic militants? Do we even know? Did the administration think about it?
I never supported invading Libya. I never thought that it was a good idea. In terms of Egypt, I don't know what really the administration, frankly, could have done. Were they going to back Mubarak? Would it have made any difference? I don't know. I just think it was very naive.
Mubarak kept the peace with Israel for 30 years.
Well, no. I'm saying, look, Mubarak was not the person that he was made out to be. He, by our standards, of course, he was very bad. But compared to, he was no Saddam Hussein. Let's put it that way. And I think that there were plenty of people that were saying, it's better to let him stay. It's better to let him ultimately step down and have a transition to power.
I'm glad Mubarak's gone too, but the problem is this, and George Bush at least pushed through Iraq even under a lot of pressure to withdraw, and we might even argue now that we're withdrawing earlier, but these military efforts that the White House denies is even military. We're going to use NATO. Well, America is 65% NATO. So this was really our operation in spite of their denials and their effort to get around the approval of Congress. So I don't buy their word games that they're playing. But it's these actions, Brigitte, seem ill-conceived. They haven't thought through the ultimate consequences and the national security interest of the United States long-term in terms of the possibility of what emerges here. They don't seem to have gotten that.
They do not get it. Listen, President Obama was negotiating with the Muslim Brotherhood and saying that they are moderates. Obviously, this administration does not know much about foreign policy. They do not understand the Middle East. They do not understand the role that tribal loyalty and the loyalty to the Ummah plays within the Islamic nation. And they are basing their decision on false facts. So when you are basing your decision on misinformation, how can you come up with a solution that will solve the problem? Meanwhile, the Middle East is going to drag the whole world into a very bad situation, especially with Iran developing a nuclear bomb and basically looking to have a hegemony over the Middle East.
Our worst fears could be a reality, and it's going to be far worse. But good to see you both, and appreciate your time. And coming up.